Welcome to Knife Thoughts. This video is going to be my review of this knife, and this is the Civivi Tacticorix. So this is a new knife from Civivi, came out a few days ago, and they sent it to me for review, and it's one I was interested in for a couple reasons. Firstly, I love this combination of their stainless Damascus and the Gaborsha wood, wood in general in Damascus. And then also it is a large knife and has multiple opening methods. So those are some things that I like in a modern knife. If you watch my channel, you probably know that I really enjoy traditional knives also, and I'm often carrying a smaller knife that is a traditional knife. So for my modern knives, I like them to be on the larger side. Just to, not be too redundant, not that carrying two knives isn't already a little redundant maybe, but I like to have a larger knife for larger tasks and, just if I need a bigger knife, and then the smaller knife as the slip joint, maybe if you don't want to whip out a big knife like this, or, just smaller tasks, things like that. So this knife has a 3.7-inch blade, which is a good size. It's definitely not a small knife. I used to say that Civivi doesn't make larger knives, and that's definitely not the case anymore. People even at the time pointed it out that they had made large knives, but certainly recently they have been doing some large knives, and I just saw that they have some other large knives coming out soon. So I really like that. I do like knives in this size, 3.5 inches to 4-inch blade. Maybe 3.25 to 3.75, something like that. So this sits right within that range. I wanted to give you some quick size comparisons just to show you the size of this knife. So first of all, one that I've been carrying a lot here is a large Sebenza, and you can see that the Tacticorix overall is a larger profile. It's not a whole lot longer, it's a little longer, but it's also taller, so it definitely feels, a little larger. And then here is another Civivi knife that I reviewed recently. This is the Incendi, and you can see that the Tacticorix is longer and taller than it. And then here is another one of my favorites from Sencut. This is the Serene, another larger knife with multiple opening methods. Again, something I appreciate. I slide these over, and you can see that the Tacticorix is longer, similar, in height overall, but definitely a larger knife. And then for a really large knife, I wanted to compare it to the Spyderco Military 2. Now this has an over 4-inch blade, but you'll see that it doesn't necessarily dwarf the Tacticorix, because the Tacticorix does have a pretty tall or wide, not wide in, this direction here, but a pretty tall handle and certainly a tall blade. So it is a larger knife for sure. Some people, don't like that. Some people like smaller knives for EDC, but I really appreciate it, and I think it's a great size for EDC. I have carried this knife a lot since having it, and I have really enjoyed the size of it for food prep. So it's tomato season here where I am, and I've been having a lot of tomato sandwiches. My son likes tomato sandwiches, so this is a nice knife for cutting those, kind of smaller garden tomatoes into slices for tomato sandwiches, because it does have a nice thin grind. So Civivi does an incredible job of their grinds. It's one of the things that has always really impressed me about Civivi knives is they are ground to cut. Now, this knife, as you can see, it doesn't have a full flat grind. I believe that it's a hollow grind, but it's not a full hollow grind either. You can see that it's it only goes up a little bit more than halfway up the total height of the blade. So it's not like it's going to be a fragile blade. You've got pretty much the full thickness of the blade for a lot of the blade, aside from this very nice long drawn swedge. I really like that really big swedge. You can't see it quite as easily on the Damascus as I think you could on the other versions, but it has this really nice long big drawn swedge. I really appreciate that. But it does have, a good amount of thickness to the blade other than at the grind. So I don't think that it's going to be a fragile blade. But because it has a nicely done grind, it cuts very well. I found that it sliced well. You know, I used it a little bit in like yard work and it worked well for that. I did sharpen this because I had been using it for food prep and yard work and stuff, and it sharpened nicely also. I haven't had a whole lot of Civivi's Damascus and haven't had to sharpen it a lot, but I was impressed so far with both really the edge retention, you know, just kind of the general qualities, and the sharpening. I am not a steel snob really. I appreciate good steels, but I don't get super into it. Like, you know, some people that make videos on knives, that's fine if that's what you're into. It's not really what I'm into. Like I say, I carry traditional knives with 1095 or D2 pretty frequently. So I meant to ask if they were able to tell me what the core steel is on this, and haven't gotten the chance. I will do that and hopefully in future videos update you. But I'm not sure what the core steel is on this, but it's definitely stainless because I have been using this outside in the wet and you know, again for food prep and stuff, and haven't had any issues with rust. So I appreciate that. Stainless Damascus can be expensive on other knives. Like, it can really raise the price. It does raise the price on Civivi knives, but they're still, you know, very reasonable. The other thing about this Damascus is that I think it's really good looking. It really has some cool swirls to it, and I think really elevates it. And that goes along with the wood. So this wood, this Gaborsha wood, which is, you know, a wood that I'm not real familiar with, but it's what Civivi uses on a lot of their knives. And it's really good looking. It has different kind of, you know, character to it on some knives. This one has kind of a straight grain, a little bit of variation in the color. It's lighter here, darker here, you know, some kind of striations and stuff. But the cool thing is they've done some milling on this. So you can see you've got this kind of frag pattern. It's almost like a frag pattern. It's like a very large frag pattern. And then you've got these lines and the 3 holes in the blade, or I'm sorry, the handle. Now, I don't know if there's a specific inspiration for these 3 holes and such, but this is starting to look towards like a crosshatch to me. I think that if Civivi would do a true kind of crosshatch or checkered pattern on a wood in particular knife, I think it would really look great. That's something that really looks like a traditional pattern for on wood is crosshatched or checkered, like a classic, you know, gun stock. So I think this is kind of moving towards that, and I do like the look of it, but I'd love to see a true checkering or crosshatch on a wood knife from Civivi. Now, I mentioned that another thing that drew me to this knife is the multiple openings. So this is a liner lock. Civivi does a lot of button locks, some liner locks. This is a liner lock, and they have these dialed in also. I talked a lot about how they have the button locks dialed in, but I've never had an issue with the Civivi liner lock that I recall. They lock up well. There's no forward and back play. There's no side to side play. I haven't had to adjust this. Even when unlocked here, no side to side. And you can see it's very smooth. But it does have the multiple opening methods. So you've got both a flipper, which works great. Also gives you a finger guard, and the thumb stud. And I like that. I think that it's nice to have both. I don't think they detract in any way, either of them, because I do think the guard is a nice thing on this knife. I think that there is some of a tactical kind of intention for this knife. It is called the Tacticorix. But, you know, I don't really carry knives for self-defense. But, you know, there's other things to tactical, I guess, than self-defense. And I think it's certainly, this is a knife that could be intended for that purpose. And so it's nice to have that guard and also multiple opening methods in case you know, need to use one versus the other. So I do appreciate that. But really for me, I think the big thing on this knife is that it is big and it's very nice looking. I really like this combination of the stainless Damascus and the wood. I talked about how I like the combination of the stainless Damascus and the ivory G10 on the Incendi, and that's true also. I think that they're both good combinations. The ivory G10, kind of looks like a faux ivory, and I think that it looks really nice with the Damascus, but the wood also has a really classic look to it with the Damascus. So I think it's just a good looking knife that is also big and could really, fill a lot of roles and work well for EDC, tactical, food prep, anything like that. So I've really enjoyed getting to check out this Tacticorix, and I wanted to talk about Civivi has a National Knife Day or Week sale going on. There's only a few days left in it, so make sure you take advantage of it. But if you spend, I think, at least $30, you can get a patch. So this is the Vision, which is one of their really popular models. I haven't gotten a chance to check one out, but hoping to soon. You can get this patch, and also you can use my code Knife Thoughts for a discount. So that is the patch is at dealers, not at Amazon, and the discount and patch are at Civivi directly. So again, the discount is Knife Thoughts. You can put that in to get a little bit off your order. And thank you again to Civivi for sending this Tacticorix for me to check out. I've really enjoyed it, and I hope if you decide to pick one up that you enjoy it also. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the bell and select all so you know when I post new videos. I always have new Civivi videos coming out. Check out my website, knifethoughts.com, where I post articles on knives like this and knife related topics. Make sure you subscribe to the email newsletter also there. That's the best way to get all the latest knife thoughts. And last but not least, as always, don't forget to go out and do good.